For me, if there's the ultimate KPI would be, are you profitable, right? Are you measuring the profits, right? So are you doing any job costing? So
welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This is your host, Joshua Gillow, and today Frank Bourque is back with us, and we're going to go deep into why ignoring these simple outdoor living sales KPIs is costing you a fortune. So, Frank, welcome back.
hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So if you didn't catch it last week, guys, we actually went deep into how to double your outdoor living sales in half the time with these 3 simple sales shortcuts. And we went to a lot of great detail in that episode all about that. So if that's something that interests you, go back and take a listen. But today we're going to focus on the KPI side of things. So by the end of the episode, you'll be able to start tracking key performance indicators, KPIs, such as closing ratios and things like that. Also, what does a lead to sale conversion rate look like? And also revenue per client to continually improve sales and team performance and decision-making. So those are the things that we're going to focus on this week. So Frank, what are closing ratios?
Well, if you look at, actually getting a sale, there's a whole process to it, right? And when I'm looking at a closing ratio, if you want to get a bit nerdy about it, we're really talking about the percentage of sales opportunities that convert into an actual sale, right? So, and the best salespeople I know they track stuff. It's like an athlete. If an athlete does not measure, what they're supposed to measure to know if it's going well or not well, if you're training for the Olympics, you know that the Olympic record time is, let's say, 2 minutes, and you're at 3 minutes. Well, you have a long ways to go before, you get to that ideal place where you want to be to compete, right? And so, or to compete well. And so, there's a lot of advantages to getting better, because the better you get in sales, the more usually that closing ratio will get better, right? So an easy formula, it's, for example, if you had 20 leads and you close 5 deals, well, your closing ratio would be 25%, right? So 1 out of 4 deals you would close. So, why closing ratios matter, right, is the real question. Well, it helps you with sales efficiency. Like I mentioned, you become the athlete of your sales, right? You become a highly efficient salesperson if you're able to close more deals and with less contacts, because your process is better. You do better sales forecasting. It helps with team performance in general. It helps with process improvement, knowing what works and what doesn't work. Because if you don't measure, you might say, hey, last year I felt like I was closing more deals, but I had a lot of leads. And then this year I feel like I have less leads and I'm closing less. Your closing ratio could be the same, because, maybe 1 year you have so many leads, you're overwhelmed, but you're still closing plenty. So you're not worried about it. But essentially what I've noticed is, if you always use the same process and systems, whether they work or not, usually the numbers will tell you the truth. And so that's where, it's beneficial to know that number.
No, I love it. And it's funny you say the word truth, because as you're talking here, I write down notes of things that I want to ask questions or to expand upon. Truth was one of them. And another thing was, you said felt, right? So when it comes to sales, so often it's a feely thing. Like, I felt like I sold more last year. I felt, right? That's bullshit, listeners. If that's you need to stop that. You need to start getting hard numbers. And it might be truth, the other word, that is hard to swallow. That you are chasing 10 leads to get that 25%, right? You're chasing 10, you're getting 2.5, not half a project, but you know what I mean, right? So 20 to 30% is the average close rate in our industry. And if that's the case, holy moly, the truth can hurt.
Yep.
So it's a lot easier just to be high on hopium, hoping all the time that things are going to get better, that it feels good, right? It feels like I'm doing my best. But if you're using the word feel or think, that means that you aren't willing to look at the truth. And listeners, the day you say enough is enough, I am willing to look at the truth. I am willing to start tracking these things. That's when you start owning a business. That, just like your athlete, the athlete can say, if I've got to get to 2 minutes and I'm at 3 minutes, how do I get there?
Yeah.
What kind of trainer do I need? What kind of systems do I need? What kind of dietary changes do I need? What kind of shoe wear do I need to change? I got a target now. But if he's like, yeah, I'm just out running every day, say it's a running thing, right? Say, I'm just running every day and 3 minutes is great, but 2 would be better. And it's like, you can't get to 2 minutes. You can't become that valuable to your client if you aren't measuring. You can't build things you can't measure. It's that simple, right? You can't enhance and improve things that you aren't measuring. So any listeners out there, if you're just kind of popping around, just hoping, and feeling good about it and just hoping and keeping your fingers crossed next year is going to be better, stop. Stop.
Yeah.
Please stop and say, look, I'm willing to face the hard truth. And it will be hard truth in the beginning. When you look at the number of leads coming in, how many you're chasing, how many you're actually closing, because you're going to have to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm not enough to do this yet. Keyword yet.
And as
I have to learn.
Right. Yeah. And I was just gonna say, as a consultant, one of the toughest things, and I tell my clients who own landscape companies and who want to better their business and their processes and their systems, and I tell them one of the toughest part about the conversations we're gonna have is I'm gonna bring you that truth through those numbers, and numbers won't lie. So, and sometimes the stuff that you don't measure will be the best news you can get. I mean, it's going to be tough in the moment, but it gives you more hope. It empowers you as a business owner or as a team leader, because now you know where your strengths are, where the weaknesses are. And if you focus just a little bit more into what can be done to improve it, man, you can have some breakthroughs, incredible breakthroughs, just by having access to those numbers. So I know KPIs, I mean, it sounds such like a term that it would be kind of even annoying to hear. At first, I remember when owning a business, I didn't like to hear systems and processes and KPIs. I didn't like those terms at all. But when someone said, Frank, it's just about knowing your numbers, it's just about, like, my kids play sports. If they wouldn't have a scoreboard up there saying, hey, we're winning 2-1 or by 1 point or 2 points, my kids are expert. They know all the points of all the NHL players. I'm telling you, they are keeping track, because for them, it means something. It says this person is performing well and this person is not performing as well as last year. And so that's what makes it exciting. So good news is, once you know those numbers, you know where you can improve, you can compare, but the best thing you can do is look at what you can do to improve the process, but also it keeps the team motivated. So if you have more than one salesperson, or you have a whole team that's looking at knowing, hey, are we doing well? Absolutely, right? We're crushing our numbers, we're selling great jobs, and we're doing better than last year. Wow, that's encouraging. So KPIs are there. They're just numbers that are meant to tell you where you're at, to be able to measure what you're doing, to be able to know, in what direction you're going, and you can tweak it. You can tweak your direction. You can modify your efforts and make it better when you know. When you don't know, it's a good guess, right?
Frank, I know when I first started, and I've been doing this almost 3 decades now, and I know in the beginning, the last thing I wanted to look at was KPIs, because I knew, I knew deep down that I was working way too hard for way too little. And if I had to pull that Band-Aid off and look at the truth, it would have broke my ego for sure, because I just kept, and I say hopium earlier because I was high in that constantly. I was always hoping and feeling everything's going to be great. Next year is going to be better. And just one more customer is going to do it for me. And I get it. I know there's listeners out there that are thinking, shaking their head like, yep, been there. So, when it comes down to it, we have to, if we want to grow a business. If this is just a hobby for you and you just like helping people and you want to build stuff, then just keep doing what you're going to do. But if you want to scale a business and actually build something that's going to be meaningful and really help and make a difference in the world and serve clients at a higher level, those KPIs are important. You cannot improve what you aren't measuring. I want to say that one more time, listeners. Write that down. You cannot improve what you're not measuring. And it sounds daunting, like, oh my goodness, I'm barely able to keep this together. We talked about it in the last episode, about 56 pages of things that most business owners are just managing on a daily basis to keep this thing called business running forward, right? How now am I going to have KPIs, and I now got to be accountable, and I got to put people in accountability positions to make sure it's okay. It's step by step. You don't have to do it all in a day. You just stop. And the first thing, and I would love to hear, actually, before I say anything for once, Frank, what would be the first step you would suggest to one of your one of your businesses that you're coaching, like how to start KPIs, which one should they start with? Which is the most valuable in the sales cycle?
We just mentioned the closing ratio. That's an important one to know because that's how that's your time management. Are you managing well your time, and how much happens with the time that you're spending doing what you're doing? So that's a great one. But the easiest KPIs when we just look at, okay, there's revenue. Obviously, some people will say, hey, we've sold so many jobs, great. But for me, the ultimate KPI would be, are you profitable, right? Are you measuring the profits? Right. Mm-hmm. So are you doing any job costing? So how many times do we go? Well, I've seen myself go through seasons, a full landscape season, and not know if I've been profitable on any jobs. I know I was, but I don't know which job. I don't know by how much. Right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know by how much. I don't know where I need to improve. I don't know if I'm better at doing pavers or retaining walls in terms of efficiency and profit. I don't know if I should be selling less of a service that I'm not profitable at. I remember when I started doing pools, installing pools was not profitable at all for the first 1 or 2 pools that went into the ground, because first of all, it's about knowing how much to price first and foremost. But it's, if you don't know at the end, you don't know how much you're going to make, and you don't know how much profit that's going to bring you, and you don't know if it's even worth your time. And so, man, you mentioned pain. It was the most painful, but the most rewarding experience to learn where I was profitable. I remember in the 2008, 2009 recession, at that point, we had 110 employees, and just like within a month or two, we realized that, we were going from like an average of 72 phone calls per day coming in to less than 10. And so we realized, wow, and they're not all leads, but they were just we were measuring calls. If anything, it wasn't a good measure, but it was just, we noticed that it just dropped to nothing. So for us, we had to cut, and it was scary because we were like, okay, well, what are we doing that's profitable? And so we started measuring, okay, which service. We noticed we were really good with hardscape, so we stuck with hardscape. We noticed that we were not as profitable when we were doing, let's say, the softscape, so we started subcontracting that part of it. We were in crisis mode and survival mode, but that's the worst time to learn. So let's say you feel like the season have slowed down. Some important KPIs is, first and foremost, is what we're doing profitable. Are we recovering what we need to recover to be profitable? So obviously, we're talking about your revenue, yes, but most importantly, your profit. Then you can look at the time. If you bid a job for 2 days and you're there for 3 days, that's an important KPIs. The time invested, and how much are you doing, your revenue per hour. If you're very efficient, your revenue per hour goes up because you can get more done within some time. So, there's a lot of KPIs. If we're just focused on sales, I think, if you want to start simple, you have to figure out and find out if your efforts are in the right place. And so closing ratio is important. Your profit is another. So job costing becomes a big part of it. Absolutely.
No, I love that. And you're absolutely true. Because it all starts with the sale, right? To bring that lead and convert it into an actual selling situation where you can then add value and make a profit, right? But if you're building retaining walls left and right, selling them like crazy, but not making any money, then what are you doing? At the end of the day, the business has to have money left over to pay bills and to grow. If it doesn't have it, it's the lifeblood of the business, cash flow, right? So it is very important to make sure you have your eyes on those things. And I raised my hand earlier because I remember in the first probably 10 years, I don't even know I can say that on live into the world on this podcast, but probably the first 10 years, dude, I would set a sales goal for the year. Halfway through, I might do like a profit and loss look, like a quick look, like, I don't know what it's going to say. I know I've been working my ass off over here. Crap. Like we're not going to, oh man, like we're never going to hit that $500,000 by the end of the year, man. We're at like 250 right now. And I don't see any more work coming in. Like, so I just kept the book shut. I didn't want to look in them. Right. I'm like, and I'm just going to pray that it's going to happen. God's going to make it happen for me. Right. So, And the crazy part is by the end of the year, oftentimes it did, but there's times when it didn't. And then I was like, I'm not setting goals for next year. That sucks. There's too much accountability, too much pressure. I just want to go out there and do this because I love building cool stuff. Right. Yeah. But that was because I was mentally more of a hobbyist than a business owner at that time, right? And once I realized that KPIs, when you make that transform it, Tuesday, when you make that transfer, for me, it was about $1 million in revenue. Once I hit about $1 million in revenue, I started saying, I got to put my big boy pants on here. And what are the other guys doing that scale businesses? And it's, well, you got to know that KPIs. You can't just hope your way into, 2, 4, 5, 10 million. You can't do that. At this point, it becomes a business. So the question is, do you want to stay a hobbyist? And there's nothing wrong with that, listeners. If that's your thing, stay there. But if you want to scale a business, you can't act like it's a hobby anymore. You actually have to look underneath the hood and deal with the fact that that might be ugly and it might be beautiful. We don't know, but you actually have to face that. You have to face the truth of what those numbers are telling you. And if it says you're not profitable, well, then you got a profitability problem. That's a production problem. That's also ultimately a sales problem. You're not selling it for enough, or you're not building it fast enough, right? So, and if you're having 75 phone calls come in, right, and you're only closing 10% of them, 7 of them, what the hell are you doing with the rest of that time? Like, oh my goodness, a KPI quickly puts that into perspective. You're like, oh boy. I mean, I've talked to people that have called. We coach, we're blessed to coach, companies around the country, hundreds of them. And it's amazing when it comes to the average, like I always mentioned, is 20 to 30% closing rate. Some I've heard as low as 10, 15%. Right. And I'm like, okay, there's no judgment here. That's not the point. We have a starting point. I'm glad you know that number. Now the question is, what do we need to do to empower your team to get that up, to double that? And then double it again, right? To keep adding to that and adding to that. Because it's all in process, Frank. You and I know that because we've been through this. But a lot of listeners don't. They think, now I got to go to some sales school, or I got to go figure out how to become a witch so I can just sprinkle something on something or wave a magic wand and make things happen. No, it's all in process. Once you learn how to have a conversation with customers, ask the right questions, right order, get all the information you need up front, and set expectations early on and get to know that client deeply, the rest takes care of itself. The client closes themselves. You just have to learn how to do that. Just like you had to learn how to run a skid steer, just like you had to learn how to lay pavers. You just got to learn something else. And if you can't get the sale to go from a lead to a sale, you're never going to get a chance to make any money or to feed those families that are relying on you because you never sold it.
Yeah. You talk about KPIs and all these great things that are tied to it. We talk about revenue and profit, but also another important one I think is worth people's time to think about it is if you need to sell a certain amount, whether it's $500,000 or $1 million per year, that means you need to know how much you need to make per day or per week or per month. Yes. Because if you don't work for 3 days in a week, it doesn't mean you need to panic. Because if your budget is based on, let's say, working 18 days a month and not 25 and all the weekends, and so it comes back to knowing how much does your business need to function profitably every day or every week and every month, and keeping track of those. And so if you're not hitting those targets every month, you can know, okay, next month's going to be a bigger month because we need to do this and this. You can adjust. You don't have to wait till the end of the year to say, hey, we're 10 days behind, and all of a sudden snow flies for people who live up north. But there's not as many surprises when you keep track of some of these numbers that tell you, hey, push a little bit more here or adjust, course correct over here. And it's one of those things where you don't need or to put yourself in a situation where you feel like you're always reacting and putting out the fires. That's what the numbers are there to tell you, right? It's like a red flag.
It's exactly what it is. It's red, green, yellow flag, whatever it might be, but it's a flag. It's giving you information. It's like driving a car without a dashboard. Yeah. Like, I don't know when I need gas. I don't know when the engine's overheating. I don't know when, if the blinker's you don't know anything. That's why the dashboard is there. That's what you need as the company, is to have these KPIs as a dashboard. And as you were talking, if you were to say, look, I need to make, $1 million this year is my target. And you say, break it down monthly. Well, if you do that percentage wise, 100% divided by 12 is 8.3%. That's great. So each month you're like, I need to see 8.3% increase every month. And then cumulatively over 12 months, it'll give me that full 100%, whatever that number, $1 million, 500,000, 5 million, whatever it is. That's great. The problem is, Frank, and I used to try to do this and it drove me nuts, seasonality, right? Yeah. When you're thinking about it, you're like, all right, well, here in Pennsylvania, we work 9 months. We're off 3 roughly, right? So in the wintertime, you're like, oh boy, maybe you get a couple deposits, thing looks great. And then next thing you know, midsummer starts to choke out and you're way behind. And what I've found is, I'm sure you can back me up on this one, but what I found is that certain months historically produce better results. In the
Yeah.
winter, you may have a higher income because you're getting a lot of deposits from clients. And then
Yeah.
maybe in the spring you have less or more, maybe in the summer less or more. We don't know that. So if you can do a historical deep dive, just 3 years and just take 3 years and look at your track record,
Yep.
you won't probably put 8.3% on every month.
No.
The KPI for that month, maybe January is 10%, maybe February is 2%, and maybe March, April, and May are all 17%. Like, you do the math, eventually it equals 100, but you
Yeah.
can then have something more realistic so that you're not driving yourself nuts. Because that's what I tried to do in the beginning. And I'm like, man, I'm crushing it. This is amazing. Then you go on sleep mode because you're like, this is going to be easy, this business thing this year. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it goes from feast to famine. And you're like, oh crap, like we're 10% behind. What are we going to do? I barely got the phone ringing now. And you're going, but if you know historically what your market looks like and when the monies come in, then you can take that 100%, allocate it to the right months, and you can track that better. Again, KPIs. And then you'll know if you're halfway through the year and you're not halfway to your goal or more, we got to make some changes. Let's not wait until the last week of December to make a change. Let's do that at the end of March or April. Maybe it's a new marketing strategy. Maybe it's an update to the website. Maybe it's some other way. Maybe it's a learning how to sell, right? Do that ahead of time so that you can be ahead of this game. So KPIs give you clarity and they give you certainty.
Yeah.
Those
And
are
they
the
help.
things you don't have if you don't have KPIs.
Yeah. Well said. And they help you plan. Like you said, if you know that 40% of your leads or 50% come in 3 months, then you know it's going to be the busy season. You can be ready for that busy season. And in other parts of the season, so I tell my clients sometimes, Mike, it's funny how some people will focus all their marketing campaign for April, May, and June, but I'm like, you're already getting a lot of leads then. You can put maybe some marketing dollars for earlier when you have more time to sell jobs in the winter, or like it can help you just plan and make some projections and not panic. I see people panicking every August, month of August or July, and say, there's not a whole lot of leads coming in, but I'm like, hey, look, it's historically, you didn't have a whole lot of leads coming in July and August anyways, it goes up in September. So you can get ready for that. So exactly, historical that data, I'm just looking back a little bit, keeping track of it. It serves for educating the team as well, and planning and putting the right efforts at the right time.
100%. And we talked about the revenue side of things. So that's what I was talking about, the 8.3% over the 100% per month times 12 months, and how you can allocate that differently per month. But your same thing you can do with your leads, to your point. If January you don't get a whole lot of leads, but February, March, historically you see 20 leads come in, whatever the number is, right? But that year after year, then okay, well, this year, and I know it flexes a little bit with weather and economy and all that stuff, but if you're halfway through your year and you find that you have like 10% of the leads you normally do, I'd be asking questions like, why? What's going on? Did we change something? What did we change? What do we need to change? But not waiting until the end of the year and being like, man, we've won $1 million, but we got 750 and we barely made any money on that. You waited till the end of the year to look at that. Halfway through the year, the yellow flag was up or the red flag was up, and you'd be like, hey, it's just waving in the wind. You're just ignoring it. All because of the times that would have been spent better. Instead of chasing leads that aren't saying yes, you can be focused on inside your business and working on it to figure these things out, set up KPIs, simple processes that others can be tracking this stuff for you so that you can sit down once a week, once every 2 weeks, or once every month with your team and having the conversations, those hard conversations. Is it working? Is it not working? If it's not working, CEO, figure it out. Get your team involved. Figure out a way to solve this problem. Hire a coach. Find a process. Read a book. Something. Don't go to sleep at the wheel. Any other thoughts on that vein, Frank?
You know what? KPIs you can measure a lot of things in the business. And I would say sales, we've talked about stuff that's directly related to sales. If people listening, they can do the same for their marketing. If you're going to put in marketing dollars, know where you spend your dollars and how much you're getting back for that. If you measure, how much am I getting out of those marketing efforts? The same for the team. How much are you getting from each crew? If you have more than one crew, is one crew producing 500,000 in production, the other one's producing 1 million. Well, in that case, if that was the case, you can look at your leaders differently. It might help you put more value on someone who brings more value to the business. So it has a lot to do with that. So you can measure each part of the business, from your administrative tasks to production to sales and marketing. And I think it's just, it can only help. So
100%. That information is gold when it comes to, directing the ship and understand what you should be investing in. Should we put more in marketing, less in marketing, more in equipment, less in equipment, more in education for our guys, or less like How can you make those decisions if you're going back to the feeling part? Or I feel like the guys could use more education. I feel like we could use new trucks. The other ones are kind of getting dingy. I feel like I should invest in this new widget. I'm sorry, but you're guessing. If you have KPIs in place, you have solid evidence that shows that you need new trucks because you're constantly breaking down and you're losing time on projects because half the vehicles aren't getting there on time and the guys aren't, whatever it might be. You start seeing that and you're like, oh, I see the problem now. I have evidence. Now it makes sense. Evidence to support making sense of spending the money toward that or improving or changing those things. But without it, you're simply hoping and feeling, and those things are going to run your business right into the ground unless you're in a hobby. And again, stay in the hobby. Frank, it's been awesome. I'm excited. This week we focused on the KPI side of things. What are some of the KPIs that we should be focusing on, such as closing rates? You mentioned, revenue and profit and all those things. The lead to sale conversion rates, what does that look like for you? The average is 30% in our industry. My target, my goal as a human being in this industry is to get us to 75+% just by teaching how to have a better conversation with clients and what is important and what's not, how to set expectations, how to knock it out of the park, all of those things. And then also we talked about, the improving sales team performance and decision-making when it comes down to it by knowing what they need. Do they need training? Do they need better KPIs? That's really what I'm going to boil it back to. They need to have better optics, right? It's called optics at the end of the day. They need a Jumbotron that they can see the score. And once they see that, that motivates people like nothing else. They can see if they're behind, if they've got to play harder, if they got to get another goal, if they can sit back a little bit, not that you want them to do that, but if they can sit back a little bit, like where are they? If they don't know what success is, it's not defined and it's not trackable, how do you expect them to continue to want to succeed for you if they don't know where the hell they're going, right? So they need that clarity. Listeners, thanks for tuning in here. Next week, we're going to jump into AI. So is AI that secret weapon you're missing in your outdoor living sales strategy? Find out next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Frank.